chair to the Driver Training and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting. We are now in order. We come to order. It is 10:03. For the record, it's July the 22nd. This is different, obviously, doing this meeting online. I'd ask all the committee members, if you can, to mute yourselves until you're prepared to speak, please. This way we don't have any problems with that. Let's go ahead and take care of roll call. Again, just mute your microphone. What I'm going to have is Luna. She's going to call roll. And when she mentions your name, just unmute yourselves and respond appropriately. Thank you so much. Delia, if you don't mind taking over for roll call, thank you.
Yes, sir. Ricardo Benavides.
Present.
David Bruce.
Present.
Reginald Thomas. Mr. Thomas, will you unmute your microphone, please? Okay, we know he's here. Victoria Barroso. Ms. Barroso, you're muted. Can you unmute your microphone? There you go. Oh.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, here.
Michael Kelly.
Present.
Kevin Knapp.
I'm here.
Sam Webb.
I'm here.
Carlos Reina.
I'm here.
Nina Joe Saint.
Present.
And Glenn Winningham.
Here.
We have a full board and we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delia. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody, staff that I haven't seen for so long, and of course, all the committee members. Thank you so much. Those of you that are joining us online as well. Appreciate it. The next thing on the agenda is the advisory committee member training. At this point, I recognize Mary Winston, advisory board attorney, to present the training for us. Thank you, Mary.
Good morning, everyone. I had to fight unmuting myself. Thanks, everyone, for being here. This meeting is being conducted by video conference. The public is watching via live stream, and the persons who've signed up to make public comment will have a chance to do so later in the meeting. The meeting is also being recorded and will be available, as all of our meetings are in general, on our YouTube channel. Here are some tips to make sure we have a successful meeting. As our chairman has just told us, keep your microphones muted until you'd like to speak. Please put all phones on silent and turn off any other sources of noise in your workspace. Also, the camera picks up and you're kind of highlighted if you do a lot of fidgeting. So, to the best of your ability, be still unless you want everyone staring at you on YouTube. State your name before you begin to speak. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Several social communication mediums do have a hand-raising feature, but during meetings where we have Michael Fickle controlling our board, thank you, Michael, we don't have time to take a look at all that. But what we can see, and so our chairman can see, is just raise your hand. When your hand is visible in the video feed, our presiding officer will call on you. However, today, for any votes that we're going to take, we're going to do a roll call vote. Ms. Luna will do that. If you have any problems connecting during the meeting, try to let the presiding officer know. We have staff working in the office. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Michael Fickle, again, who will assist you with any connectivity issues. Also, stay on camera during the meeting, even if you're not speaking. If you need a recess, let the presiding officer know. Raise your hand visibly on the camera, and he will definitely take care of that. If you get inadvertently disconnected from the meeting, rejoin the meeting as soon as you can using the same link you used to join the meeting initially. We've now had several of these. Using this new medium, We know that we may have a few awkward moments, few minor blips. No worries. We will deal with them in real time and we'll take a small recess if we need to. It's anticipated and it's okay. We will adjust. We'll go through all of the agenda items and take care of everything we need to act on today. We actually do have one person who is going to make a public comment who signed up and done the prerequisite things to join the meeting virtually with us, and they will have a chance to do so later on in the agenda. Thank you for everyone for attending today and participating. We appreciate you so much. We actually have a full house, and that is awesome from all of our houses and those of us who are actually in the office. Thank you again. And Mr. Chairman, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate that. Before I move on to the next agenda item D, any questions? Anybody have something that just cannot wait? By a raise of hands, a show of hands? Anybody? I'll continue then with agenda item D, and that's the approval of the minutes for the previous meeting that we had, September the 25th. I'm hoping that you all had an opportunity to look at those minutes. Before I announce to make a motion to approve those minutes, anybody have any questions about those minutes? Anything that you'd like to point out, something, anything at all? Committee members? Anyone? Okay. What I'll do now is I'll have Mr. Luna again do roll call and she'll tally up the votes. So if you don't mind, Mr. Luna, thank you so much. Mr. Luna, can you hear me? If you could do the
Mr.
roll
Chair,
call for- Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Kevin.
This is Carlos Reyna. I second the motion.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Made the first motion, Carlos Reyna the second. I really appreciate that, Mr. Luna. My apologies. Yeah, if we could just take a roll on that. Thank you so much.
Can y'all hear me? Hello, can you hear me, Miss Mary? I'm sorry, thank you. Something's going on with my computer. Ricardo Benavides? David Bruce?
I approve.
Reginald Thomas? He did a thumbs up. Victoria Barroso?
I approve.
Kevin Knapp?
Aye.
Michael Kelly?
I approve.
Carlos Reyna?
Aye.
Nina Jose? Nina Joe?
Can't unmute.
Aye.
And Glenn Whittingham.
Approve.
Motion passes. Mr. Benavides, we cannot hear you.
Thank you so much. My apologies. I've noticed, and I think some of you all have been having that problem. When you press the mute button, it doesn't unmute, and vice versa. Thank you for your patience. Our next item on the agenda is E, public comments. And as we heard earlier, I think we had just one person that was going to be doing a public comment and was actually going to be addressing us. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I did just want to mention the rules real quickly. During this public comment, the public is allowed to speak for 3 minutes. I know that Mr. Luna will be keeping the time on that. Person that we have, first person and only person that will be speaking today will be Mr. Patrick Barrett, a familiar face for us. Mr. Patrick Barrett, my apologies. It's great to see you again, so I can actually see you now. Whenever you're ready, Patrick, on ahead, sir. Thank you. Please unmute and you're ready to go. Thank you. Mr. Barrett, you're ready. Patrick, can you hear me? I can see you. Patrick? I'm not sure we can communicate with him. I'm not sure if he can hear. Let's just give it a few more seconds and see if we can have any response. Mr. Barrett, can you hear me, sir? Patrick? Okay.
Mary Winston here. I'm thinking, okay, now he's talking. Mr. Barrett, you are still muted. Huh.
Cannot hear you, Mr. Barrett. If you can hear me, we cannot hear you.
So this is one of those minor blips. So we need to get it to where we can hear Mr. Barrett, because Mr. Barrett, we can see you talking, but we cannot hear your voice. So we're going to work on that to get your public comment in. We do apologize, but if we could just take a quick pass on that, and let's see if we can maybe get a phone call patch through for him. So can we take just a 5-minute recess, Mr. Chair, so we can work on that and get it? I don't think it'll take long at all.
Thank you so much. So what do we do at this point? We just wait here for 5 minutes? We don't disconnect, correct?
Yes, just wait for 5 minutes and maybe less than that. We're making a phone call to him internally. So we may do video as well. Oh, he's taking the call now.
Thank you. So we will officially take a few minute breaks, by the way, and then we'll get back. For those of you that are watching, committee members, a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Can you announce the time, please?
Oh, yes, thank you, Delia. It is 10:14 a.m. really appreciate that. Okay, so Ricardo Benavides, Chair. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. It is 10:19 in the morning, and we'll come back. We'll come back to the public comment once we get Mr. Barrett back online. For now, I'd like to move over to our next item on the agenda. Committee members, staff, public, it is number F, discussion and possible recommendation on the proposed amendments to the existing Rule 16, Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 84, Chapter 8. We actually have had a lot of time to look at these rules here. What I'd like to do now is recognize Mr. Mark Gladney, the Assistant General Counsel, will actually present the proposed amendments to the rules. Mark, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee members and staff and chairman of the committee. Again, for the record, my name is Mark Gladney, Assistant General Counsel, and I'm here to present the rule package in item number F. And we have kind of reached a milestone here. This is the second phase of rulemaking since the department received the DES program in 2015 with the passage of HB 1786 from DPS and TEA. The department planned to subsequently reorganize with these two phases. The first phase pertaining to licensing and regulatory functions, and the second phase, today's phase, pertaining to course and curriculum requirements. Now, today's rule package represents the movement of the second phase from recommendations from the fee and curriculum work groups with the addition of program fee reductions and implementation of changes brought about by HB 2847 in the last legislative session through our work groups, which consisted of advisory board members and TDLR staff. And as the chairman stated, while this is a relatively large rule package, this rule package, you should all be familiar with it because it has been pretty much out there since December 2019. There has been pretty much very little changes that have been made since December of 2019. And I will point out just some of the amendments made since then. And some of them are based on comments received post-publication, and we'll address any questions that you may have at the end. I am wondering, since all of you have the rule package, whether or not I should share my screen with you that has the particular rule package on it, or you just follow with what you have. Would it be easier for you? Folks?
Mark, why don't you go ahead and share the screen? I think that'll be helpful. This
Okay.
is Brian Francis speaking.
Yeah, I agree.
Mark, Mary Winston here. I'm trying to get Mr. Barrett in, so I think we're getting closer. Let me check really quickly to see while you're working on that, if we can get him on now before you go into the rules. Let me check and see if he's if he's able to speak. And you can begin working on sharing your screen. Let me make sure he's on. And we may have to patch him through with a phone call, which is fine. He's actually been the first public commenter we've been able to see. He's not ready yet, so we are going to continue on. I just hate to interrupt you when you start, but if you could start sharing your screen, we're going to keep it moving. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, can everybody see my screen? It should be the proposed rule package that you received back on the 10th of this month.
It's on screen.
Okay.
Please make it just a little bit bigger, Mark. Try to upsize it just a little bit for us. It would help.
Alrighty, I will try and do that. How's that? All right. Okay. That's the ribbon. Okay. Not really sure how to do that, but in any case, as I stated, this rule package has changed very little from when it was presented to the advisory board back in December 2019. And that version was distributed to all advisory board members at that time for review. All right. So let's see here. This rulemaking represents the culmination of phase 2 of the rulemaking that started when the department received the program and focuses in on amendments to course curriculum requirements to allow for more flexibility in course creation, reduction in program fees, and bill implementation of 2847 where it's appropriate. Since the publication, there have been a few non-substantive changes that have been made. It's mainly to correct language and to comport with Texas Register requirements and practice. And I will direct your attention to those particular areas. First, we'll go to page 12 on your rule package. And the numbering might be a little bit different. It's going to be section 84.44, B as in boy, 5A as in alpha. Okay, if you look to your screen, you'll notice in red, we made a change there simply to correct language, spelling out the word 6 and taking away the number 6. We did that in 5A and in 5B. Okay, moving on to page 26. I hope I'm not making anybody dizzy by scrolling through this quickly. And page 26, section 84.300, E is in Edward, 2 through 5. You will notice in red where we had struck the words of this title in those 3 subsections. Again, this is for Texas Register requirements. Those changes were made there. Then if you scroll down to page 28, actually, let's go to page 27. You'll notice that E5, we took the language regarding the fee for the parent-taught driver education guide form being $20. We basically moved that. It used to be in 84.302 E5 at page 28 of the rule package, and we moved it here because it was more appropriate to be there than to be down where it was, which I believe was in the DAP. Yes. Now, there was a substantive rule change made at 84.43C is in Charlie, 1C Charlie. And that was due to a recent comment, and I'll discuss that in a few minutes. So if you scroll up to page 8, we'll get to that in a few minutes. Now, the proposed rules were published in the May 8th, 2020 issue of the Texas Register. The deadline was June 8th, 2020. During the 30-day public comment period, the department received 7 total comments. Some of the comments contain subparts. The department made 1 change to the proposed rules in response to the comment, and that change was, if you're at page 8, it's at 84.43C1C. The commenter expressed confusion as to the responsibilities of a PTDE course provider in the event of the transfer of a PTDE student, and what the course provider would be responsible to confirm for issuance of the DE 964 for a transferred student. The rule text was clarified at 84.43C1C to state what a pardon?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, is there somebody there?
Yeah, Mark, I think we're still working on our public commenter, and I think he has found a way in. But, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you like this when you're on a roll. And I want everyone to know everyone's important in this meeting, including our public commenters, of course. And that's why we really have struggled to get him in. And that's who you heard in the background. So if you could pause now, Mark, because I know you have quite a bit to go. If we can get him in and give him his 3 minutes, Mr. Barrett, if he's there, and we can let you. Mr. Barrett, is that you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Awesome.
All
Awesome.
right.
Mr. Chairman, is it okay? I'm sorry, Mark, if you could just pause, Mr. Chairman. Is it okay for us to back up to E to public comment so Mr. Barrett can have his time and then
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I do recognize Mr. Barrett at this time. Go right ahead, Mr. Barrett, if you can speak. By the way, before you start, Mr. Barrett, my apologies. Mark, can you remove what we have on the screen? You're sharing a document, if you don't mind.
Oh, hold on for a second. I got to remember how I'm doing that.
Okay. Is Mr. Benavides, was that you speaking to me?
Yes, Mr. Barrett, if you could just give me a few seconds. We're wanting to clear up the screen so that we can actually hear you and there's no interruptions. Just give me a few seconds, Mr. Barrett.
The problem is I've got the meeting on and I'm getting an echo in here, so I'm going to see if I can cancel my listening to you guys right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remove the shared deal.
That's okay. You know what? Don't worry about it. I think as long as we're able to hear Mr. Barrett, that's what's important. There you go, Mark. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Barrett, I recognize you now. If you can, go right ahead, sir. You have the floor, so to speak. Thank you.
All right. So, okay, here we go. Well, again, I thank those of you who put forth the effort to update, simplify, and adjust the rules that govern this industry. I appreciate your commitment to this task. Of all the issues that I addressed in my comments regarding these changes, I believe that perhaps the most important one is how we can eliminate most all of the fees, including the ridiculously high course submission fees, by adjusting the certificate fee. From the information provided to me by the TDLR, and I just received an update on that this morning, so I believe this to be accurate. It looks like parent taught in fiscal year 19 generated $3,354,470 of the $4,877,958, about 70% of the revenue. So how can we even this out and let everyone pay their fair share? If we change the certificate fee, which is paid by the course providers or the schools, from $1 to $4, we can eliminate virtually all the fees. This is a great, simple solution to the issue of fees that the board is trying to resolve. It's a nominal increase, less than the cost of a latte at Starbucks, that can easily be borne by the schools or course provider. If they choose to pass on the increase to their clients, no one will notice. This creates a more equitable opportunity for those already in the industry who wish to add course options for the public. Also, elimination of the fees incentivizes those who might choose to enter the industry. Keep in mind, this is an aging industry and we need new folks to provide these services to Texas citizens. Raising the certificate fee is fair across the board. No individual company or driver education or driver safety or offender group has an advantage. It seems to me that you committee members often function with blinders on. You view the issues of fees with tunnel vision. Because some courses have traditionally had course submission fees and license applications and renewal fees, you focus on how to adjust those fees instead of asking the question, how can we eliminate the fees? Seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. Ask better questions to get better answers. I encourage you all to keep an open mind. Be a little creative. Allow your imagination to accept a different approach. It has been almost 5 years since the TDLR has become responsible for regulating our industry, and the promise of fee reductions has yet to be fulfilled. Let's fulfill that promise to the benefit of everyone, not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barrett. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your patience, committee members. Mark, we will revert back to where we were at on item F, discussions about the possible recommendations on the proposed amendments for these rules. Mark, if you can hear me, the floor is yours, sir. Mark, you're muted. Can you hear me? We'll wait for you. Mark, if you can hear me. Unmute yourself.
There's a slight delay. Mary Winston here, and Mark does appear to be muted as you share your screen. So if you can unmute.
Here we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm trying to get back to where I was. Okay. All righty. Oops. Nope. Don't want to do that. I'm sorry. I am trying to get this to come back to me. Do you see the screen?
Mark, your screen, we do see your screen, however, it is blank. So not sure what that is. And this is one of we've had a few of those blips I talked about when we opened up, but there we go. It's in, Mark.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I apologize for that. In any case, where I was the discussion with the proposed change to 84.43C1C, and the commenter had expressed some confusion as to what responsibilities a PTDE course provider would have in the event of a transfer of a PTDE student, and what the course provider would be responsible for to confirm for the issuance of a DE 964 for a transfer student. So therefore, we clarified the language in there to explain what a course provider in PTE upon a student transfer would be responsible for when a DE 964 certificate is issued. So you'll notice that we crossed out the and basically put that the course provider would complete the transfer DE 964 to indicate completion of either module 1 or the entire classroom hours. And that was the change that was made there. Now, having said that, the department is recommending adoption to the commission with the changes as proposed to the aforementioned sections and we would be asking for a motion from the advisory committee to approve recommendation of same. The rule package is expected to be effective on September 1 of this year. The commission is scheduled to consider this package for adoption at its August 4th meeting. One other thing that I should note is that from the original version of these rules that we received with the transfer of the program from TEA, there has been approximately a 10,000 word reduction. Now, in this particular rule package, we did add in a new section, well, several new sections, but one in particular, which is 84.507, that deals with the driving safety course for adults under 25. That one was a rather large section, but we had modified it to reduce it some. And there also was some reduction in 84.601 dealing with certificates associated with public schools, universities, education service centers. And basically that reduction, some of that language was moved to 84.43. So the net effect of that, we're still doing the calculations to determine whether or not there has been a reduction or a slight increase. I'm hoping to have the numbers to you before the end of the meeting. If not, we will get them to you as soon as we possibly can. But just remember, on a going forward basis, it is our full intent to reduce this rule chapter as much as humanly possible. Of course, that depends on what happens in the future with the legislative session. And it's my understanding that may be discussed later on in the agenda. So at this point, that's all I have. We'll take questions if you have some. Ms. Barroso, I noticed that you wanted to annotate on the rule text. I will try to do that if possible.
Sorry, that was just an error.
Oh, it wasn't there? Oh, okay, okay. Well, at this point, we will take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. Before I ask the committee members for a motion to approve the rules as presented by Mark, I do want to open it up for some discussion. Anybody have any questions about these rules? Any comments? Yes, go right ahead.
Mark, could you stop sharing the document, please?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Please bear with me.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, did that work for y'all? Okay.
Thank you so much. I recognize Nina. Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Nina Saint. So, Mark, the only changes are the ones you pointed out.
Yes, those are the only changes.
To what was sent forward.
Those were the only changes that have been made since December 2019.
Okay, so that's all we're voting on, those items that are in red.
Well, you're voting on the entire rule package with changes that have.
Correct. Okay.
You're voting to recommend adoption to the commission.
But the only changes since December are what's in red.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Nina, I appreciate that. I recognize Brian.
Brian Francis, Executive Director with TDLR. I just want to thank the staff and the workers for all the work they did. And this is a significant overhaul of the rules, and there's a lot of work that's been done. And we wrestled with fee reductions, and I just want to tell Mr. Barrett, he makes a valid point. We've done some fee reductions here, and I feel like we can go further in the future. This is the first step, and it's a major step. Without question. I mean, to an industry that hasn't had any fee reductions in their history, this is historic. But yeah, we can do more, and we can continue to be strategic and smart as we move forward. But the work that's been done, Mark, hats off to you. I thought you came in and jumped in and did a great job. and putting up with me and the lengthy meetings that we had going over each line and each word, and then the work group walking through it as well. It's just been great work. So I'm excited and I can't wait. And hopefully the vote will move it forward and we'll continue to modernize and improve.
I cannot hear.
Sorry, Nina, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to thank everybody for their hard work.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate that. Chair? Yes, go right ahead. Anybody else? Raise your hand. What I can see. Yes, Mark, go right ahead.
I would like to echo what the executive director has said. We had gotten a lot of great participation from the committee members. The two work groups have been wonderful to work with. Staff has been great. I mean, this is what negotiated rulemaking, I think, is all about. And we got some good comments on this as well. I kind of expected more than 7 total comments, but you know, in light of everything that's going on, you know, who knows? But I'd like to think that everybody who was out there in the public who read the rule package was satisfied with what was done by staff and the work group. So thank you very much for all the work that everyone has done on this rule package.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. Ricardo Benavides, chair here. Well, great. Then committee members, I'll consider a motion to approve these rules as presented by Mark.
So moved.
I second the motion.
Thank you so much. Carlos Reina seconded. Who was it that initially made the motion? Kevin, my apologies. Thank you. So Kevin Knapp makes a motion. Carlos Reina seconds it. Great. Delia, if you don't mind taking roll call so that we can see what kind of vote we have here. Thank you.
Yes. Ricardo Benavides,
Yes.
David Bruce,
Yes.
Reginald Thomas,
Yes.
Victoria Barroso,
Yes.
Kevin Knapp,
Yes.
Michael Kelly,
Yes.
Carlos Reina,
Yes.
Nina Joe Saint,
Aye.
Sam Webb,
Aye.
and Glenn Winningham.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yay.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Luna. I really appreciate that. I'm going to continue moving forward. If you all don't mind, committee members, before I move on to agenda item G for staff reports, anybody have any comments, any questions? A show of hands so that I can see anyone. And we'll proceed on then with agenda item G, and that's the staff reports. I recognize David Gonzalez. He's a deputy executive director who will present the office staff reports.
Morning, Chairman Benavides, advisory board members. Appreciate y'all's time today. I have the pleasure of presenting the executive report. I am one of 3 deputy executive directors supporting Mr. Francis in our executive responsibilities. I'm going to try to be respectful of your time and have y'all follow along with me. I'm going to share my screen right now, hopefully with the same success that Mark had. Do y'all see my screen?
Yeah, David, I don't see it.
No.
Yet? Okay,
It showed
let me
you as the
try
presenter,
again.
so it should be coming up shortly.
How about now?
Yes.
Sir.
All right. So let me click on the right page to make sure we got the right thing up for y'all. And one more. All right. So this is our main page from our website. The things I'm going to be talking to y'all about today are all available for the public and for everybody to view at their leisure. The first thing is the COVID-19 response. These have been phenomenal times, educational times for us. Everybody has been going through their own challenges related to COVID-19. We have broken this report into basically 2 responses. We had an external response and we had an internal response to the COVID-19. The external response really is us facilitating information coming from the CDC, from the governor's office. And if I could take a step, someone has their microphone on. If y'all could please mute, it's coming up loud and clear in my earphones. All right, thank you very much. So we actually have provided an external response by being the conduit for CDC information, DSHS information. All of it can be accessed right here where I'm showing y'all on the COVID-19 main page. It's important that the public and everybody else that wants to know what's going on at TDLR related to COVID-19 knows about this page. We have all the governor's executive orders on the right-hand side, going down to the very first ones that he's provided to us. Anything specific to y'all's program, y'all should have gotten, if y'all are signed up for our information to receive via email, special notices. And so we were putting out notices all through this time period. You will notice, goes back all the way to May. We started this exercise in March, trying to deal with, actually trying to understand all the information being thrown at us and incorporate it in a way that we can make sense of it to get it out to our public and the licensees that we serve. Some of the ones that were most significant for y'all include driver training schools, which had the governor issue proclamation reopening driver schools. There was an update to the driver training strike force plan. You actually had special standard healthcare protocols that were put into the governor's strike force plan. All of these things we put as links on our website so that the licensees, the people we serve, could have access to this information as quickly as possible. Trying to make it as easy as possible for people to have information and gather the information they needed to know if they're 25% or 50%, if they have to wear masks. There's been some challenges with that because, again, we're gathering information from the federal level, from the state level, trying to stay in step with the governor's orders as well, and making sure we're communicating all this to the public. In addition to our external response, we had our own internal response. You know, TDLR is used to the brick and mortar office where we all went to work. In March, our executive director, in his wisdom, decided we're going to do what everybody else has been able to do, which is try to work from home. It was a big task. Kudos to our IT division and all of our staff for embracing this and embracing virtual meetings and communications via Teams and WebEx and Zoom. It is a new world for us, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to go back with the technology we have, with the bandwidth that's been opened up with our IT division, and the efficiencies we gained. Y'all didn't have to travel from across the state of Texas to get to a meeting, and we can still conduct business. There are some challenges. There are some blips, as Ms. Winston refers to, and we've had that. We've experienced that at our agency. We're actually going through our return to office procedures at this point because work from home has been working very well, but there's some things that we can't do from home. Mailroom, things that are coming in through the mail, finance has to do their work, and there's actually checks that has to be processed. So we've had some staff, very dedicated staff, that have had to go into the office on rotations. We're actually going through the process of temperature taking and recording who's in and who's out and how everybody's feeling on a particular day so we can do contact tracing if it becomes necessary. It has been a real challenge for us, but we have persevered and used our core values, leveraged our core values to make sure that we're still conducting the business of the state and serving the public the best we can with the information we have and the ideas that go along with TDLR's premise. Mr. Francis, that's all I was going to present on COVID-19, unless there's something else you wanted me to call out or focus on.
David, I think you did a really good job. The one thing I want to emphasize is that we are not, that's my mother-in-law touching my beautiful head, or her beautiful hand touching my head. I love it. I want to emphasize that we're not immune to what other businesses are dealing with. We've had employees that have tested positive. We've had employees that have family members that have tested positive. We've had to clear out the downtown location because of concerns about that. And so there has been some disruption in some of those things, but the spirit of our agency and our employees has just been remarkable. You know, Carlos, I always talk about core values and how they're great and easy to do when things are working well, but they're really tested in times of difficulty and challenge. And I can promise you that the core values of our agency and our employees is stronger than I've ever seen before. And so I'm just so grateful for what they've done. But we're also looking at things for, the licensees and making sure that their customers and their employees can be safe as they're administering programs, and whether it's the CE things that we've waived or sought waivers on. Those are important and would continue to be open to it. If there are ideas that you or the industry has that we should consider as we continue to navigate through COVID-19, send those to us. We are taking every option, every idea, every thought from every corner, because it's important to really make sure that we're being safe for everybody in this moment. So, David, great job. A thought occurred to me that George Ferry would be so proud of you. You're doing great. Keep on going.
Thank you, sir. You actually provided a great segue to the strategic plan. Strategic planning for TDLR is a important process, but it doesn't necessarily go on just during the springtime. It actually goes on year round, as long as we're willing to listen and the people that are willing to provide us the ideas to get our work done. On this same page, you saw the COVID-19. On this same page, if you scroll down, reports, and you have to scroll down one more time. I promise this will be worth your time, because this report really provides you our basic framework: organizational report, strategic plan. So this is the front page of our strategic plan. This is a plan that all state agencies must produce and provide to the governor's office. On June 1st, we turned in to the governor's office the Leading Texas to a Brighter, Stronger Future plan. It really is TDLR's roadmap, and it provides the direction for our staff and transparency to the public. If Brian Francis and David Gonzalez were not here to provide this report, and you wanted to know what TDLR is doing, how they're doing it, how they function, who the people are that represent TDLR, you would find it in this plan. I'm going to scroll through some of these just so you can see it and recognize some of the work that went into it. Hopefully y'all will see this screen as I scroll through. One of the most important parts is table of contents. Can y'all see the table of contents there? All right. So who we are, what we believe, who we regulate. These are things we've incorporated in most of our strategic plans. The core values have stayed pretty consistent, but they're so important to this process because it's an inclusive process, and it requires more than just our staff. It requires the public's participation, our commission, our advisory boards. All of them have to give the input. Who we regulate has changed over the years. In 2015, we had 24 programs. Going into 2021, we're going to have 40 programs responsibility. So things have changed over the years. I want to highlight just a couple of points for the strategic plan that I think are important. So forgive me, I'm going to scroll quickly to some of these pages that I think are important for you to see. Number one, how we do our business. The Texas Commission of Licensing Regulation. These are governor-appointed commissioners that can't have an interest in any of the programs we oversee. We have to go to them. We regularly go to them for guidance and input, and they have an effect on how we direct our business and conduct the business of the state of Texas. Most importantly, y'all need to be represented and have been represented in all the documents. It's for a reason. We have 33 advisory boards. I think it's going to be increasing soon. These advisory boards, the input y'all provide is so critical to what we do. If we don't hear the feedback, the things we're overlooking, the dissonance, whatever ideas that y'all bring from the industry, if we don't hear it, then we're in a vacuum and we can't do our jobs well. So it's really important part of the agency process to incorporate the advisory boards. Obviously, we have our functional alignment, which has, I think, been the reason we've gotten to our point. The deputy executive directors are listed there, but every division, our customer service division, education examination, licensing division, enforcement division, everybody has a contributing part to the overall process, and they have had to participate in a different way this past year. Strategic planning in the past for us has been traveling the state and gathering input. For those of you that have been with the agency for a few years, y'all have seen us out, probably in y'all's area or region of Texas, gathering input. We've had to do things a little bit different this year. We actually had 2 statewide virtual information gathering sessions. That was Brian Francis and I, using the Poll Everywhere app. And it was difficult not having that feedback, not having an audience and seeing the consternation or the frustration, actually having to do everything virtually. That was a challenge. We also took input via our website, taking polls. asking everybody the questions. What would you do if you were king or queen for a day? What statutes or rules would you change? In this pandemic time, what would you do different? What would you have the agency do different? These are questions that we didn't have the answers to necessarily. We may have had some ideas, but without y'all's input, we don't come up with this plan. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the critical part of the plan, which is telling you we're going to focus on. This is what we've done in the past, and this is what we're going to focus on going forward. Slowly, patient. All right. So who we're going to be, it's important that you know that the recommendations from Sunset, which we'll be talking about in just a second, are going to be critical to our future. It has been an important part of TDR's growth in the past. A lot of the programs that we get are the result of Sunset reviews. So we are going to be prioritizing its goal number one in our strat plan to fully implement and administer the recommendations from the Sunset review process. It's important for you to know that. All of this is a good read. All of these are important. Improving efficiency, streamlining rules. We're doing it today. Decreasing regulatory burdens. We hope we're reviewing all of our programs and making that happen. But those are things that have occurred in previous strat plans. We're going to be continuing those. We've got new ones with human trafficking and trying to make sure that we're using our role and leveraging that to do a better job at helping with human trafficking or eliminating human trafficking. This is one of the ones that I think is critical for y'all to see because it's different than any other strat plan. How to respond effectively to the next pandemic, natural disaster, or crisis. We've done an effective job in the past, I believe, with tornadoes and hurricanes, but the pandemic has taken it to a whole new level. And we've had to think about doing business in a different way. I just wanted to call it to your attention. The sunset and the pandemic are looming large in this strat plan just because they're so different. They're so unique to this particular strat plan. Again, if you have the time, I would encourage you to spend it and read our strat plan because it will give you the vision for the agency going forward. That's my plan here, Mr. Francis, on strat planning. Is there anything you would like to add, commentary or things that I overlooked?
No, it's a great job. And I want to make sure, Christina Kaiser, is there anything you want to add to the strategic planning conversation, or is David good to go to sunset?
There's nothing I would add. Thank you for asking.
All right. Do what I did before. I want everybody to be able to access this. Again, David's not here. Driving the screen probably makes me dizzy. On our main webpage, the Sunset Commission issues staff report on TDLR. As you know, sunset is a very important time in any agency's lifespan. We've actually been able to forego a few of these because of additions of programs. We kept on growing, so they postponed it. We have had our Sunset Commission process, Sunset Review process going on since last year. It is a diving deep process. Kudos to the Sunset Review staff. All of their staff they're brainy, they're very intelligent, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty and really get into the mix on our processes and how we do our business. The entire staff report is located right here. It's 125 pages from back to front. It is a good read for anybody that's interested in TDLR and regulatory requirements. I would point you to the executive summary, which is probably an easier read because it's shorter and summarizes the things that are important to the agency in mass. I'm going to switch screens to I'm hoping, to a different place here so I can highlight just those things in the report. See executive summary of Sunset staff report. If you do, give me a thumbs up. All right. I'll see executive summary of a Sunset staff report in front of y'all. Nope. Let me stop sharing and start sharing again. Taking a little break so I can switch to sharing a different screen because I want to go through the right stuff for y'all. Right for business, Adobe Mail. There it is. That's what I want to share. Should be a slight delay and y'all should see executive summary of Sunset staff report. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Kaya, for the thumbs up. You'll see at the top, the project manager was Emily Johnson. Again, her and her staff were incredible at getting down to the nitty and this is an exception report. We're not going to hear good news about what we're doing. They're going to be finding things wrong, and they went through and really got their hands dirty on the things that we needed to hear about. It was important. Let me, I can scroll through this and get to my highlighted areas. In this very first paragraph, I am going to read this because I think it's important. This was a limited scope review. Only programs that were to the agency before September 1st, 2016 are included. DES was included because it came in 2015. Notice it says, while TDLR has generally incorporated new programs successfully, its ability to take on additional responsibilities without jeopardizing the quality of service, licensees, and the general public is not limitless. In fact, evidence of increased burdens is beginning to show. We think we do a good job at TDLR. We really try hard. We have phenomenal staff working extra hours to try to get the job done. But we know we're not Superman, and we know that there's improvements, and they're pointing that out. To that end, the review focused on preparing TDLR for the future by eliminating certain programs and licenses, removing burdensome regulations, and making other improvements that would free up the agency's capacity and allow it to become even more efficient. I think it's really important to read that statement. I think that statement is a good summary for the entire report. In the next paragraph, I have highlighted text. Other programs, including barbers, cosmetologists, and driver training providers, y'all get special mention in this report. It is in y'all's interest to read through issue number 4. I'm going to scroll down to issue number 4 so y'all can read. And I know, in fact, I know some of y'all already read it because I've seen y'all's public comments in the responses that you're able to provide back. Important to make use of this process. This is an ongoing process. Sunset has made their recommendations. Their report is published. It is their report, not our report. They are getting input from the public. Brian Francis has already provided a response with the help of Ms. Kaiser and staff, prepared a response on things that we thought needed to be addressed and management actions we may move on even quicker than waiting for the hearings to come. But this report specifically makes reference to driver training programs and gives specific recommendations on how things could be improved. It is in your interest, it is the industry's interest to look at these. And if you have some insight, things that you know we need to hear, that the Sunset staff, the Sunset Commission need to hear, now is the time to actually go to their website and provide that input. It is still available to you. You can go to their website and I will show you that in just a moment. I just wanted you to see issue number 4 in that highlighted area because many of our other programs didn't get quite that level of mention. Y'all did. So let me stop sharing and to the screen page again where y'all can see Are we on break?
I can't get my audio to work.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me, Carlos? Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
So
My screen froze while you were attempting to go to the public comments for the sunset report. And then I lost audio and I actually jumped out of the meeting. So I don't know if you ever got to proceed forward or not. I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, that's when it happened to me as well. I saw faces frozen and I didn't have any more connection anymore. So didn't know if it was me or if it was something else. Okay. I wonder if I broke the system. You know, like so I get about
Mr. Chairman, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
I'm actually on the phone with GDLR right now. Technical support. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
I'm back. I'm not certain what happened. Thank you.
Can you guys see me and hear me? Maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is Rick Benavides. Just wanted to let you guys know, I just spoke with technical support. They're actually having some difficulty, but let's just remain online. Let's just wait a few minutes. As a matter of fact, let me officially take a 5-minute break. It is 11:13. Let's do a 5-minute break. Just stay online, stay connected, and then we'll regroup. Mary, sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Got a 5-minute break. Let's just hit it. Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate that. I was wanting to wait for Delia to show up, Miss Delia Luna. But yes, just
Okay.
to remind everybody, I think the screen froze for everybody at the same time. I was even disconnected, so I had to come back in. I guess, should we wait for Mrs. Luna before we officially proceed?
Let's see if we can get her.
There she is. There she is. Hi,
Okay,
Delia.
there we go. Awesome.
What about Reginald Thomas? Reggie, are you here? We don't have your video.
Yeah, we're missing Nina and we're missing Reggie as well.
Yes. And David, you have your hand up. David G.
I promise to be.
Okay, I'm here. Y'all can't see me?
No.
No.
I promise to be short. I just, Chairman Benavides, I'd like to know where you lost connection, and I would start up there. I promise to keep it short so we can finish. I want to make sure that everybody got to hear the last part because it's important for the hearing process for Sunset.
Okay, Delia still cannot hear the meeting, which
You're
is the
muted,
problem.
Mr. Venus.
There you go.
Okay, she's going to try to sign back in so she can get audio.
Or let's see if we can hear you because we couldn't hear you a second.
Okay. Reggie, are you with us today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We just can't see you.
Oh, okay.
But we can hear you.
Delia, I think we hear you, but we can't see you.
Correct.
Did you log back?
I think we have all members on, and okay, we're good to go.
There's Reggie, there's Delia. Perfect.
Okay. Rick, you're on here twice. Okay. All right. I think
What
we're
about
good.
Nina?
Where's Nina?
Yeah,
Nina.
she's right there.
Okay. Yeah, right there. Okay, in the middle. Okay, I think we're good. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Just for the record, Delia, we took a break, 11:13. We're now officially back. The meeting is back in order at 11:22. I think we just have about everybody. If we can continue, David, I wish I could tell you exactly where you had left off, but you were going to some area and then everything froze. Go for it.
So I will not share screens. I don't want to break the system. I will share with you that it is on our main webpage. Top right-hand corner, Sunset Reports, public comments, I believe is where it froze up for me. So that's an important part of the process. Sunset is not done. They have to go through their process. Legislation has to be submitted. So it's still an opportunity for the industry and the public for all of our programs, not just for DES, but for all of our programs to get the public comments. August 19th and 20th, there will be hearings with TDLR, Sunset staff, Sunset Commission, and any of the public that would like to be there. It could be held virtually, so keep abreast of that by going to the Sunset website. And in September is when the full commission will hear all of the input that's been provided. And that's all I wanted to share. I'll keep it short. Mr. Francis, Ms. Kaiser, if there's anything I've overlooked, please help.
If I could ask a question, please, where is the, if we want to give input, do we do it through the website and submit it to you all by email?
On Advisory Board Reina, David Gonzalez, yes, you go to the Sunset Commission's website and there is a public comments link. You just click on that link. It allows you to provide your comments and it would be, you can choose to put it up there publicly or not. So yes, go to the Sunset Commission's website to provide that input.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brian Francis. Christina, could you briefly just go over the group that you're leading, our management action team, the response team, and then I'll close out after that.
Sure, Mr. Francis. This is Christina Kaiser, Deputy Executive Director for Regulatory Services. And Brian has appointed me to a team that will take action at the agency level on the management action items in the Sunset Staff Report. So as you read through each issue in the Sunset Report, when you get down to the end, you'll see recommendations. Some of those are recommendations for statute changes that will have to occur through the legislative process when the legislature next meets. But then there are also management action recommendations, and these are things that we can do right now on the ground. And most of the management actions reflected in the Sunset Report are things that we think are a good idea anyway. And so there's really no reason to wait. And so we have begun marching forward on those. There are 5 of us on the actual team. And then for each recommendation that we're working on, we have assigned directors or other relevant staff from the affected divisions to be the owners of these management action recommendations. Because, if you want to affect change on an ongoing basis, the people who have to implement that and keep it going every day need to be in at the beginning of the process and not just have something handed to them. So it's been, we have identified 5 management actions that we started working on first, and we have made very good progress and have actually completed a couple of those already. And we are starting now moving into some of the more meaty recommendations, including those in issue 6 that have to do with enforcement, inspections, and regulatory program management. I'll leave it there. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Christine, so much. David, we really appreciate the staff reports. Thank you very much. I wanted to recognize the committee member, Sam. You had your hand up earlier. I don't know if you still want to speak.
Yeah, Sam Webb, thank you. David, on the COVID updates from the governor's office, or maybe Brian, this is a question for you. I'm curious who at TDLR is coordinating with the governor's office about the different ways to open up things, and like our schools, how should they be opened up versus bars? Is there a conversation going between the agency and the governor's office?
Brian Francis, Executive Director, TDLR. Board Member Webb, it's continuous. I've got one staff member that's dedicated to talking to our liaison in the governor's office, and it's a two-way street conversation. Earlier, when I solicited ideas from the group, when we get those ideas, and we will run them through our process internally and say, yeah, let's talk to the governor's office and see if this is something that they think should be implemented and waived. The waivers come from the governor's office. He has the authority to move forward with that. But all of the conversations that we've been involved in, from your end, from the cosmetology side, in helping the Reopen Texas Task Force, develop the standards for for shops and salons that opened up. All those discussions we've had a chance to talk about those, and of course, when the decisions are made, we're moving quickly to make sure that the messaging is there and proper, and that our licensees know exactly what they need to do. But it's daily that we're having conversations because it's moving that rapidly. If you think about it.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate that. I wanted to recognize Nina, committee member. Right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Kaiser, the management action items for especially our division and so forth with driver education, where would we find those? Do we have access to see what you're working on? Are we going to be notified about that?
So Ms. St. Christina Kaiser, again, Deputy Executive Director. The management action recommendations are included in the Sunset Staff Report. And so that's the report that David walked you through a moment ago. So the issue that relates to your program is issue 4 in the Sunset Staff Report. And so if you go to issue 4 and then you sort of scroll down to the end, you will see a listing of recommendations that start with 4.1, 4.2, et cetera.
All the way to 4.14, yes, I have those.
Yes, ma'am. And the ones specifically that my group is working on in issue 4 are 4.10, 4.11, which includes change in statute as well as a sort of a management action. Or no, excuse me.
4.10 and 4.14.
I'm sorry, let me correct. We are working on 4.10, 4.12, and 4.14. And 4.12 and 4.14 involve a statute change, but it also involves an element of management action. And so we have positioned ourselves to be able to implement those management actions if and when the statute changes take effect.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that. Yes, I found them.
Thank you so much, Nina. I recognize Brian.
Chairman, these are great questions. Something that David said earlier, this is an ongoing process. A lot of folks have said, TDLR, what did you do to the sunset report and what are you going to do about it? This is the sunset staff's report. This is their report. And that's why, Carlos, David was directing you to their webpage because the comments are going to go to them. At this next stage, everything's a new stage. The next stage is the public hearing that will take place on August 19th and 20th. We are understanding, it's not confirmed yet, but that those meetings will probably be virtual. But that meeting, the staff will present their report to the Sunset Commission, the decision-making body that's comprised of 5 House members, 5 senators, and then 2 public members appointed, one appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, one by the Speaker. That group will take the public hearing information from the staff report and the concerns or suggestions that folks have. They'll process that at that meeting. They will not make a decision in August. At their September 23rd and 24th meeting, they call those the decision meetings because they make decisions at that meeting. And the commission will then say, here's what we're going to do. And they will decide, oh, we're going to go with 4.1, or we're going to modify 4.1 to look this way, or to change it this way. When that decision meeting takes place, that starts another new beginning. And from whatever the commission decides, the governing body, then you'll start seeing, Nina, and Mike Kelly knows this directly, you'll start seeing the statutory language being developed by the Sunset Commission staff to implement whatever decisions came out of the decision meeting. You won't see that bill filed until after January, maybe February. And then that bill becomes the most popular bill in the history of mankind, because not only will it deal with what the commission decided to do, but obviously it's going to make all of TDLR's aspects and areas open for people to say, here's another thing I think can be improved, or here's another change that can take place. And then we're going to be over in the Capitol in some shape or fashion, virtually, present, we don't know yet. Right, it's going to be an interesting process. And there'll be hearings galore on this, on each element. And then that's going to compete with what, Nina? The budget cuts that we're dealing with, revenue drops. It's going to deal with school finance. It's going to deal with redistricting. It's going to compete with COVID-19. And maybe we'll be hanging out after this session and go to a special session or two to work through these issues. Today is not the ending point. It's just a new beginning point of the conversation. And I strongly encourage, obviously, the advisory board members, but the industry at large to really be engaged in this process. It's so, I think the opportunity, David, to modernize and really catch up the statute to where it should be. It's an old statute, and we all know that there's some clunky parts in there. And being able to fix it and improve it for the driver experience, the driving learning experience, and the education experience, I think is something that's worthwhile. And I'm excited to see where it ends up, and continue to be plugged in, because I know there are absolutely no wallflowers and no silent folks that sit in the back room in the driver education industry. So it's going to be an exciting ride. No pun intended, but I guess pun intended. Mr. Chairman, I'm available to answer any questions. David, you did a fantastic job. Kaiser, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate that. I recognize David Bruce, committee member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is for Brian or another member of the TDLR group. On the August 19th/20th meeting, will the TDLR participate in that meeting?
David, like David Gonzalez said, we haven't gone through sunset in a while, but we have been participating in sunset hearings probably for the last 4 or 5 years. And how they typically go, they will invite the agency up first to kind of walk through what do you think and what's your response and what are you going to do. And so we'll have that opportunity. Commissioners will have an opportunity to talk about it. And then, I remember we participated in the sunset hearing for the behavior groups, psychologists and social workers, and that group. That meeting took 11 hours, and I was there, and I was able to go up on the 12th hour to testify. I was called up to testify on that. For the plumbing hearing, sunset hearing last session, I was brought up at the table at the very front end of it with the board members from the plumbing, the executive director from the plumbing board, and myself. And so, David, we will be involved in those conversations, and we have an opportunity to participate. David said it best. Uh, we walked into this knowing that this process is going to make us a better organization. If no change came out of the sunset discussion, we're already better for the conversations we've had. Their presence has allowed us to identify areas of weakness, opportunities for improvement. They've already made us a smarter agency. We're more vigilant and diligent about how we go about our businesses strategically. So that's already been a benefit. And to continue to pour through the 249 plus comments, and I think they actually range up to 749 comments in that area. Sometimes you could think it's a tough read to hear when people just point out that Brian's beard's a little too long, or the shape is a little, oh, why is he so gray on the left side but not on the right side? He should, do X to his beard. The same thing you feel about your organization. But the truth is, those comments allow us to be smarter and improve. And we haven't gone through this process in a while, and we needed to. And we welcome it. We do.
Thank you very much, Brian. Just a follow-up question. I'm asking this because I've received a lot of phone calls from the industry not knowing exactly where to direct their comments. So at the August 19th meeting, will the TDLR, as the TDLR, make recommendations or say they're in agreement or in disagreement with some of the sunset recommendations in the sunset reports?
David, if you go to the comments that David Gonzalez kind of showed you how to navigate, our comment or response is listed first, and
Okay.
on some of them we plead the fifth, man. We just say, we have no opinion on. Particularly like issue number 2 had a lot of deregulations, recommended deregulations, polygraph examiners, licensed breeders, and so forth. And those are really tough decisions that the sunset staff is making a recommendation on. We didn't weigh in one way or the other on a lot of them, but we said that if this is the direction you're going in, we will do it and we will make it work. So we kind of stood on the fence because, again, this is their report. They're moving forward. Now, if they ask us directly about a change and how to do it best, we're going to be ready to assist in that regard. But Christina's team is already working. And Nina asked the question, are we going to inform people that we're working on it? The moment they publish their staff report, I put a team together saying, let's start getting ready to queue in to do these management actions as if we're being directed. Let's be proactive in that. The industry needs to go to the meeting. They need to participate and speak directly to the Sunset Commission. The commission is going to be the deciding voice in this. It's not going to be TDLR. It's not going to be my commission. It's going to be the Sunset Commission, and that's who they really need to address their comments and their recommendations and suggestions to.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brian. Bruce, I really appreciate that. Before we move on to the next item on the agenda, anybody have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Go right ahead, Nina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nina Saint, so a few of us do read these things like hot off the press. And reading through it, one of the things that jumps out at me, and I just want to know kind of where TDLR stance is on this, but we're kind of, the recommendations to eliminate any kind of training, driver education training, driving safety instructor training, and take away licenses. So is it TDLR's stance that you can do our jobs that we're doing currently without any training to be like a driver education instructor and teach somebody who's never driven before?
And I think this is Brian Francis. I think it's best stated that that's the recommendation that the Sunset Commission staff made, and that's what's in front of us. You've not seen that recommendation from us in the past when we've gone through strategic planning. This is their recommendation. TLR stance is not at issue or for debate here. This is something that the industry needs to, and the public needs to talk to the commission about. They're going to be the decision makers on this issue for those things. But I mean, our stance is the staff's did the report, and now what is the commission going to do? And whatever they direct us to do, we're going to get implemented. It's not ours to call; it's their call. And
So
it's a
you
starting
suggest
point.
to read TDLR's comments, go to your report on their site.
Oh yeah, and I can paraphrase the comments. We have no position on this because it's their staff's report. Their commission is going to be introduced to this, and they will be open to the public, the industry, as well as their staff's opinion. This y'all been through this process before. It's very transparent. The fact that they published all the comments out there that they've received, they're not hiding what people are saying. It stimulates the dialogue and the discourse.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question for David G on, because you had mentioned the work from home. What batch of mail are they working on now? I know I called a couple of weeks ago and they were working on June 8th mail. And, you know, we're almost getting closer to the end of July, and, you know, we're still trying to run our businesses, and I know we're all kind of in the same COVID-19 loop here and trying to get things done. But if the mail's not open timely, we're kind of stuck.
This is David Gonzalez, Deputy. It's a fair question, Nina. Yes, we too are dealing with COVID-19. Executive Director Francis said it. We've actually had some instances in our house with our people that has delayed. We are in July now on opening mail, so we're getting closer. We've had to pool our resources, reallocate resources from different divisions to get that mail opened, but we have caught up to July. It will still take time to process those applications. I would encourage those who have some concerns. There is always the opportunity to go through customer service, but you do have to be patient with us because we are doing exactly what you said, working through the COVID moment and trying to make sure that we're looking at all the information that we have available to us. The best way is obviously customer service, because we have a call center with staff ready to answer questions. And if they need to be escalated, if there's a particular deadline that needs to be met, those things can be escalated as necessary depending on the circumstances. But it's not just DES, it's all of our programs we're overseeing. But it's a fair question, Nina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Nina, at this point, I recognize Glenn, committee member. Glenn, if you can hear me, you're more than welcome. You're muted.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry about that. Definitely, I will. I appreciate everybody for their input so far. I will take up, any issues as an advisory board member or an industry member with the Sunset Commission coming up in August. I would like to say though, since Ms. Kaiser brought up the management action issues, that a couple of the issues that I disagree with in the Sunset report. One of them does happen to be a management action issue, which is 4.12. I believe that it's the TDLRs, and I'm not sure what your opinion is on this either way, but I would like to say that I believe it is the TDLR's responsibility to thoroughly review the curriculums that are submitted to TDLR with the utmost scrutiny. I believe that it is a responsibility of you all's to the industry, to the rest of the industry, to the public, and to all of the court systems that refer individuals to these programs. I think that it isn't a good way to make sure that individuals, the courts, et cetera, I'm repeating myself, get the quality that they need and get what they pay for. So, and in regards to that too, receiving a if a course isn't following some sort of the guidelines and rules that have been set forth, I would say that 9.9 out of 10 times, the consumer isn't going to be filing a complaint because the what's not being followed in the rule and the guideline actually benefit the consumer to get the course done easier and faster. So the only person that would be filing a complaint against another provider would be another provider. And it's not other providers' duties to have to go in and monitor competitors' courses to file complaints. That's not what we would prefer to do. That's really just the input I have on 412. That's one of the issues I have with the Sunset Report. I take exception to 4.6. I take exception to 4.1. Those are issues, though, that I will be obviously taking up in due time coming up. So I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents there.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I really appreciate that. At this point, I'd like to recognize Committee Member Carlos.
Yes, this is Carlos Reina. I just wanted to echo Nina's sentiments regarding the issues we're having with opening mail and so forth, primarily because our staff, if I get one call above all others, is to see if I can find out some way where their license is, where their status is, and so forth. And customer service is really good. You can call them, but all they can tell you is pretty much what everybody can tell you. Well, we're not to that day yet. They really don't know what the status is. And it's become a real issue for us. It's taking right now, the average instructor is taking 2 months to get their license renewed, which is not a big deal. We're told to go ahead and keep on teaching. We do. But if someone looks us up on the website, we're showing we're expired. And they question whether we're a licensed instructor. Statutorily, we're supposed to carry our license with us. We're told to print out a copy of that page to show but technically that's not statutorily accurate. And probably the worst of all is submitting a new instructor with new licensing and so forth. That's a longer process to begin with. Someone goes through 90 clock hours, 135 clock hours of training. Now you've got to wait 2 to 3 months to start working. They can't wait. They can't. They're trying to make a living. And right now there's a lot of unemployment and there's people seeking opportunities, but I can't really do much about it once I get it to the TDLR. So I would just like to know who in management can we talk to figure out a way for us to be able to put these people on the road, the new ones, and figure out a way where we don't have an issue with the renewals. The renewals I can see we can get by. The new ones, we can't. I know Nina's got a few waiting right now. People aren't working and we can't put them to work because they can't get a license. It's kind of like DPS right now is going through a real difficult time themselves. So I know personally from hearing from parents and so forth, they're just simply letting their kids drive. They're not legal, but they need them to drive and their hands are tied because they can't get an appointment at DPS for 2 months. So it's kind of the same situation. So if there's anyone I can talk to about that afterwards, because I was going to make a recommendation, we put it on for the next agenda. But I think this is something we can probably fix if we just work together on something to come up with some solution to get us more instructors on the road. Thank you.
And I'll just address some of that. You know, COVID's going to be my response probably for the next 20 years of my life. It just is. It's a reality. that we're experiencing supply chain issues, and there's no difference here at TDLR. One of the things I'll commend David and Mike Ayers-Mendez and Randy Nesbitt, what they've done in the last 2 weeks to move, NINA from that June 8th date to get us up to literally, I think we're like 4 days away today in our mail. We've thrown new resources, but the new resources are bringing more people into the building, bringing them more people in proximity to each other. And so we do have concerns about our staff having exposure, and I'm always going to keep their safety and their health foremost in these efforts. But we have made some adjustments. We're also exploring some changes to the process that would allow for a third-party vendor to image those documents on day one and get those available to our staff. So we are making changes to speed up and create greater throughput. But this is not, you could put this on the agenda, and we could put it on every advisory board's agenda, because these are all the things that come to the mailroom are having this touch, particularly if there are checks attached to it. That creates a whole different process for reviewing, but that's for us to figure out. And we are trying to be innovative and trying to change. And in fact, our business model will change in the next 3 months. We will not be opening mail the same way. And the team has heard me talk about that. We shouldn't be opening it the same way. And we're going to have a more streamlined process as we move through this, but the hiccups are there. There's no question about it. And I'm not excited about it.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate that. Ricardo Benavides, Chair here. I recognize Carlos, committee member.
Yes, Carlos Reyna again. Brian, is there any way that we could work things out where maybe we can pay, let's say, renewal fees or new instructor fees electronically, so we don't have to open up and get a check out, and we can scan documents and so forth and submit them so they could be in the system? Would that help in speeding up the process?
Carlos, I'm open to all ideas. You scanning the document's not going to accelerate it going to the system per se, because we still have to get it into our system. But we can definitely talk about looking at more renewals online. Some of the other programs have more robust use of that and has that set up. So, there are things, and Carlos, I'm open to every idea. In fact, if you want to come and help me open some mail, I'll put some gloves on you and PPE and have you in there, but no checks for you or me. They don't trust me with checks either.
Yeah, I've got a hazmat suit, no problem. And thank you for your response.
No, thank you. I appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Brian. Carlos, I really appreciate it. At this point, I'd like to recognize committee member Reggie Thomas.
Reginald Thomas, thank you for recognizing me. I want to certainly acknowledge and express my appreciation for what Mr. Winningham said. I think it's vitally important that we have consistency across the board. And I know it's very difficult to get that, but for whatever rules that are eventually implemented, I think it's vitally important that we make sure that everybody is following that rule as much as we possibly can. I understand how difficult it is, but when I hear a lot, and I guess I have a lot of experience in dealing with um, um, uh, discrepancies from both sides of the house. And I hear a lot, and it concerns me that some people are able to do just about anything they want to do and get away with it, whereas others are trying to abide by the rules. And so I want to support and also commend Mr. Winningham for saying what he said. I believe it's vitally important.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. I really appreciate that. Great. I'll recognize David. Go right ahead, sir.
David Gonzalez, the Executive Director. Just one more point on the sunset, and I'll be done. I may have forgotten to tell y'all that the recommendation is that our agency be continued for 12 years. That's kind of important, but it is just a recommendation. And so, again, public comments are open, and every industry will have a say on that particular aspect. It's important that y'all read that particular line in the sunset report as well. That's all I had.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate that. I want to recognize committee member Michael Kelly. Go right ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out, I worked with the 3 different state senators back in the 1990s on Sunset, and then I helped oversee DPS Sunset in 2009 when I was government relations chief and then later driver license chief. And then I also worked on 1786 with my old staff at DPS and brought the program over. I just want to make it clear, TDLR under the General Appropriations Act cannot serve as a lobbyist and cannot advocate for or against legislation. So Glenn and others who have had concerns, you can't expect the agency to go up and testify that they're opposed to or against what some lawmaker is doing. That's the role of the public. And that's why that's why TDLR expanded and has the advisory committees, because then the industry and the public members such as myself, have the opportunity to work with Sunset. You have to also remember Sunset is an advisory committee, all right? That doesn't mean the Texas legislature is going to enact what they recommend. So this committee, the Sunset Advisory Committee, is making a recommendation to the legislature, and then the legislature can say yes or no. So don't think that just whatever the advisory committee comes up with on the 19th and 20th, that it's done. You now have an opportunity, thanks to the way the Texas Constitution is written, that the people actually have a voice because they can go to their representatives, the Senate, the House, the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor. You have many opportunities to be able to influence that process. But let me make it clear for the agency, though, they cannot lobby and be for or against legislation. So the industry, I know you're new to DPS, but you have to recognize that TEA and Department of Public Safety before was not able to lobby for or against. And now that the program's here, that didn't change. So if you really do have a concern, recognize the Sunset Advisory Committee is a recommendation. It's not the law. And you have a chance when the legislature meets to make those changes. But please, you have to, as individuals and representatives of the industry, have your voice heard. You can't expect the agency to do that because the agency by law is not allowed to do that.
Great information, Committee Member Michael. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Before I move on to the next agenda item, anybody have any questions? Anything else that we'd like to discuss? The next agenda item really is recommendations for agenda items for our next committee meeting. Committee members, anybody have any suggestions, anything else that we'd like to add to the agenda for our next meeting? Could be anything. Anybody at all. Yes, go right ahead, Brian.
Brian Francis, Executive Director with TDLR. Obviously, we'll probably be meeting after the September 23rd or 24th meeting, decision meeting. So there could be a lot to discuss in terms of decisions, whether it's management actions or statutory recommendations that come from the Sunset Commission. That's going to drive a lot of the discussion. Of course, we'll update the advisory board on the implementation and the commission's decisions regarding the rules that were recommended today. And then hopefully we'll have our mail stuff fixed as well. And we'll report favorably on that. My plan is, and this is staff hearing it for the first time, is that in these first round of meetings, our staff reports have been COVID, sunset, and strategic plan. As we get into the new fiscal year, which begins on September 1, or the second meeting for an advisory board, we'll start seeing more of the regular staff reports, whether it's productivity numbers in terms of examinations or licenses. And I think that'll be helpful. And so that'll be added back at your next meeting.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate that. If there are no recommendations for agenda items added to our next meeting, yes, Mark, go right ahead.
I'd like to point out that we have another rulemaking that will be coming down the pike from the curriculum work group. And this is an effort to streamline the rule chapter by taking portions of rule text from subchapter M and a few other subchapters, but mainly subchapter M, to create manuals for each course type, thereby shortening up the rule chapter and making it easier for the licensees to know exactly what type of curriculum, how to structure their courses with these manuals. So we already have a manual that's in existence for the POI for teens that has been in use for a while, but we're also creating manuals. We have created manuals for the adult 6-hour course, the driving safety course, specialized driving safety, and the DAP. So we will be, commencing that particular rulemaking after the effective date of the rule package that we discussed and y'all approved today. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. Anybody else before we move on to our next agenda item, which really is discussion on time and date for our next committee meeting? That would be Delia Luna. Any proposed times for our meeting?
And we can poll the board for the next meeting as soon as I can meet with staff and see when we can meet up.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Delia. I really appreciate that. I want to thank everyone really for meeting. Our next agenda item really is adjournment. So before I adjourn this meeting, anybody care to say anything at all? Great seeing all of you all, of course. Thank you so much, staff. Everybody, that just makes it happen. And of course, the techs that put this together. It's amazing how we're able to do these meetings online. It's fantastic. At this point, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. It is 12:01. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Y'all stay healthy.
Thank